You want to jump into it?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Hell yeah. Well, dude, thanks for coming and doing this. I appreciate it.
Of course.
All right, let's dig into it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Orphan. Let's start there, and then let's see where this thing goes.
Awesome. Yeah. So first off, I wanted to thank you for getting me on this pod and stuff. You've had a lot of my good friends here, Carrie Johnson, Barron, people here in Naples. You're great for business as an artist, so I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah.
But yeah, Orphan's a brand that I started about 4 years ago. Was like when it was being created. I was going to college for computer science, but I really all my roommates were fashion design majors, so I started playing around with designs. Then I came up with Orphan, but my first concept for it was I wanted to make one-of-one clothing for people, really specialized, like something you could wear for the rest of your life. I still want to do that, but as of recently, I would say the last 6 months, I got a call from my friend. He's like, start with T-shirts, because I wasn't making anything. I had all these designs. I have in-game designs, but you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
So then I started. I got my first print out. I get them printed. I know nothing about this.
Yeah.
This is actually one of the first shirts I already printed. And you can see it's like a little milk carton design. But it's all faded. And that's because I got it hand printed and the paint didn't stick. But that taught me a lot. I learned stuff from that, like where the design's going to go, the coloring I wanted. But then I found out, that's not the guy I have to go to. So then second design, these are digitally printed. They came out a lot nicer. I have the milk carton ones of these two. They're super nice. The quality of the shirt's really nice, too.
Yeah.
The milk cartons, they sold out so fast, I couldn't even keep one for myself, though. So I didn't even have one to show you.
Really?
Yeah, people wanted them so much. That's actually a misprint. The necklace is supposed to be up at the top.
But another lesson learned.
Yeah,
dude.
exactly.
Yeah, isn't it crazy when you start diving into this stuff? You think you know exactly how it's going to go, and you oh, I got this figured out. This will be easy. And then all of a sudden you encounter what it really takes to freaking do this stuff. And it's
yeah.
Oh my God, man. The amount of things that go wrong is
you got to be prepared for
incredible.
it. This idea has been in my head, like I said, for years, and it's just now coming to life. And as you reach each little milestone in the journey, you're going to come across, obstacles, pivot points.
Sure.
I need to change my brand this way. I need to do this. But where we're really sticking hard to is the authenticity of it. Orphan, you could come from nothing. You can make yourself into anything. That's kind of the brand saying is come from nothing, turn into anything. We want to promote, people trying this stuff because, I was in computer science. I was in a completely different area in my life. And when I started trying to be a designer, a lot of kids in my high school, they were designing stuff, had beautiful paintings, drawings on the shirts. They're like, you're not a designer. But the authenticity, it's authentic to me. The Orphan brand, coming from nothing, really striving, making this from nothing. And I feel people have fed into that a lot. With my first drop, I had so much love, I ordered another drop and it was sold out, and now I'm having trouble just keeping up with the shirts because they're high demand. And people are like, oh, Full Sin members are wearing it, DJs are wearing it, and these are all my friends. They're just kind of trying to help me in the beginning.
Yeah.
But we do really want to just create it into something that anybody feels comfortable in, accepted. It's going to a good cause.
So what's what goes into a drop? So it's a drop, hey, we've got 30 of these shirts and we're just putting them out at once, and then however many people get them, first come, first serve. This is the batch, and then that's it.
Well, our drops right now have been really opportunistic, I would say. For example, I was Art Basel weekend, huge weekend, a lot of art out there. I'm I need to bring shirts out there. I got invited to influencer yacht party. They ended up doing a fashion show on it and everything. But I knew that I needed to get my shirts out there. So that's why I got the 30. I wish I got more because more people wanted them. But by the time I, leave the shop, go to Kava Love to tell people I just got my shirts printed, 5 are already sold. So I'm already under what I want, So you always got to put that in the back pocket, always print more.
But it's kind of nice having that demand
Oh,
already.
great problem to have.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, even giving shirts away for free at this stage in my brand is like not unheard of. I think it's a good tactic for me. But yeah, the drops just come real natural and like opportunistic. Like my friends, Nick Naracina, he's helped me so much with it. He took me along to some concerts. He was performing some concerts here in Florida. So he's like, all right, I'll wear your shirt and stuff. So jump on opportunities like that. But especially when you're trying to build a brand, you got to think about like these influencer schedules and like what's important to them. Like, all right, this DJ is having a huge set tonight. What would make this special for him? And it started off with me making one-of-one hoodies, and I would give them to some DJs, my friends. They're like, oh, these hoodies are awesome. But now I'm trying to make it into a brand where, you know, anybody could wear these shirts and feel awesome. Because it does have like a ripple effect. They see my friends or like DJs that they admire wearing the shirts. They're like, I want the shirt. And they feel better in the shirt that they're wearing. So
That's cool.
Yeah.
And it's like, and this world is so foreign to me because for me, I'm kind of like a good example. Like, I didn't used to really shop at the Gap, but I'm 30 now and I've got a 1-year-old daughter and like I've got all this stuff going on. I haven't bought a new pair of jeans in like probably 6 years or something like that because I haven't found any that worked. And I went to the Gap and I tried on a pair of pants and they worked. So I bought like 6 of the same thing. And they were on half off sale. And that's how I operate. So like for me, this whole world of like people being like, oh, I saw that person with that shirt. Like I have friends that are into that stuff too. But for me, it's like it almost like it's like a world that doesn't exist because I could wear the same friggin' pair of jeans. Like I wore them for like 5 years. I had 2 pairs of jeans. Those are the only jeans that I had, and that's what I wear. I like these, so I'm gonna buy like 6 of them. I've like fully turned into like I'm fully becoming a dad. I think is what's happening.
A lot of people are like that, you know, and those people, I mean, I'm kind of the same way. If it works, go with it. If I like a pair of pants, I'll keep that pair of pants for 5 years, like rock them, whatever. These are my party pants. These are my church pants, just like that way too. But I think the 2 things that really distinguish Orphan is one, it's like the cause. People really get behind the cause. They know that when they buy a shirt, I'm going to use some amount of the processions to go back to give. And that's how I am in my everyday life. Even before the brand, I try to, you know, be a nice person, help in the community. We live here in Naples, which is like the most giving, small world community out there. You know, like when I moved down here, it completely transformed my view.
Where are you from originally?
Grays Lake, Illinois, just north of Chicago, between Milwaukee. But so much talent comes from that place too. Same kind of type of feel as Naples. We have like our 5th Ave. It's like Center Street. Everybody meets down there. You know, we're all hanging out. You see the same faces. A lot of talent and beautiful people come from that place. But Naples is like that with palm trees and beaches. So it's like, why would you pass it up?
Yeah, for sure. Well, how long ago did you move down here?
Like 1.5 years ago.
Oh, really? That's it?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
But I'm not going anywhere. Yeah.
A freaking socialite down here. I know. I see you hanging out. It's like everywhere down there. That's cool.
Yeah, I didn't want to have the snowbird feel where it's like, all right, I'm just taking it for the weather and like then I'm gonna leave. I really wanted to like immerse myself into it. And you know, I've found more connections and people behind my goals down here than I ever have. I mean, for example, John Schneider, Papa John. It'd be real cool if you had him on one of these podcasts too. Like, but he's always in Naples. I ran into him. He liked the pants I was wearing at the time. I had my friend who designs, Victor Perlman. He's an awesome designer. He's like what I aspire to be, but he takes like a couch on the side of the road and will turn it into pants for you.
Oh,
so
shit like that's pretty cool. Like where people, that's like a real like raw talent that people have that they can go in and just like work with whatever. It's almost like
God's gift.
Yeah, it's kind of I like view stand-up comedy that way in a lot of ways. Like I respect those guys for what they do because to be able to like go walk on stage and then just work with whatever's going on in the crowd and the audience is like you got to be a real master of your craft to do that and just work with whatever you got. So if you like pick up some like like you said, people picking up pieces of trash and turning that into like
masterpieces.
Yeah. I was even talking to this woman who She runs a company called Statement Piece. And I think they started by finding like wood that people threw away. And that's how they started making their wood jewelry. It wasn't scalable, but like I think it was something like that. It's just
Yeah.
it's cool
It's
how
an
people
origin story.
create different stuff. So like what's the cause behind this? We talked a little bit about it before, but
Yeah.
what are you doing now, and then where does it go?
So right now we're starting small, just some of the processions from our first drops. We really want to help kids by giving a few kids like some Christmas presents, bringing some light into them on the holiday, just doing what we can for now. I do want to scale it into like, a lot of nonprofit, helping like foster care systems, orphans. That's just something that like kind of resonates with my life a lot. I was in a foster home when I was growing up. I was, taken in by a Christian family. At the time, I wasn't Christian at all, but, they're awesome people.
Yeah.
And it's just, I got helped by so many random people. Like I was saying is like all these random people came in my life and they're just like helping me when I didn't even know I needed it. And this led me to here, which I feel like I'm in a great spot. But so I want to give back and kind of, have that vision and give like influencers a way to say like, I'm wearing this clothes, like this is going to a good cause, like I support it, and kind of get the awareness up,
Well, so and like you said something interesting is like you were in foster care, you met this family, Christian family, good people, and they led to kind of like the ability to almost like have this kind of positive outlook that you have. And that's not the case for a lot of people that go through foster care and things like that. So like what do you think was the kind of the big factor there? Like what was it like when you first got there, and then how did some of that stuff change?
Yeah, well, it was so uncomfortable at first, like they were obviously a super nice family, but you're getting put in a position you're not comfortable with. So you want to fight it as a kid, I didn't want to
Sure.
like leave my room. I didn't want to talk to them, whatever. But I mean, they showed like, if you think about it, other animals like literally kill like the cubs of other, like if it's a bear and it's not your bear cub, it'll kill it. Humans are like the only animals that really like take in and shelter. There's some other things like Orphan, kind of when I was thinking of the brand name, it stems from like ancient Roman mythology. In the Roman mythology, there's Romulus and Remus, which were two orphans. They're raised by like a she-wolf, and they ended up being the first two like kings or emperors of Rome. So they took over all of Italy.
Okay.
So that's like where the kind of the idea of you could come from nothing and turn yourself into anything. But in that same situation, I'm in foster home. I'm like, these people aren't my family. Like, I really didn't, and I still am like learning to really appreciate the gift that they gave me to this day,
Yeah.
and the sacrifices they made and everything. And that's why I kind of want to build like my brand and what I'm doing around that. And even if it's not clothes, like on my day-to-day basis, I treat everybody like kindly, try to be nice to people. But, that's like kind of secondhand nature. I was taught that by these people who had the compassion to take me into their household and raise me as their own. So it was like, now that I have that compassion, it's kind of like my obligation to pass that feeling on. And I get like some people go the completely other route. They're like, nobody loves me and I'm in a foster care, so I'm going to start doing bad things, getting involved in, negative, violent behavior or whatever. But I'm trying to make awareness to that and like show people like you do have people out there that care for you, and they might not be your family. They might be a random person. There might be a person across the world that cares about you, but that could push you if you use that energy in the right way. So,
For sure. And how old are you?
23.
23?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, probably wasn't until maybe right around that time that I started to be able to appreciate some of the things that my parents did and have done and like have like worked for, and then like how they've helped us set our lives up and set us up for success and things like that. Dude, when I look back, I was the biggest fucking prick. Oh my God. It was like it's for no reason. And it's
Part of life.
I think it's part of life. I think we all go through it. And my dad always says like, yeah, I can't wait for your kids to put you through that
Yeah.
too. So, and it's coming. I did it to them, so they're gonna do it. I didn't do like bad shit, but yeah, I was just like angry all the time for like no reason, and I don't know. I think just living in the real world, starting to experience things, going to work, having these different relationships and stuff, like you start to navigate through, and then you start to realize that a lot of people don't have their shit together nearly as much as you might have thought, or like you might think people are perfect and things like that, and then you're like, actually, like I've got it pretty good. Like
Oh yeah.
I'm not dying right now. Like I have all these like things that are like pretty okay. All right, let me stop being so like self-pity, and just like let me fucking find a way forward in life. I don't know. It
Yeah.
took me until probably 25 or 26, honestly, but I think 23 is roughly when this started to crack through.
Yeah, I mean, I went through like a moment of like self pity, like obviously, like most people do, like, oh, I don't have like a family, all this. I got bullied by it like for a little bit, but like I had such a community behind me. Like literally, when I graduated high school, I had like a standing ovation from all the parents. They're like, he made it. So it
Hell
really
yeah.
was like it meant a lot to me. You know, I was overcoming obstacles that other people can't really see, but in my life, it was like such a big jump for me. So, but the huge motivation for me was like I saw people in worse situations. You know, I was in the suburbs of Chicago. Like I was thinking of inner city Chicago kids, and you know, these people have to fight for their lives every day. Like they're not safe. Like at least, yeah, I didn't have everything I wanted, but I had security and a family who loved me and a place to put my head. So it was like that was the start, and I built on it, and that like kind of built like my compassion, my like passion, and that's what a lot of this brand is. Like this brand isn't like me being like a crazy talented artist where I could just, you know, go on a piece of paper and
Yeah.
draw an awesome design that everybody's going to love. Like I put a lot of thought and process in every design, and it's a lot of my feelings, and it's a lot of like how other people are going to feel. And my brand is a lot more about like the community behind it, everything, you know, because community is like a beautiful thing in like the human culture, you know, like you could feel accepted from all these different things, you know, whether it be a kava bar, whether it be a coffee shop, narrative, whether it be a restaurant you and your friends always go to, book clubs, you know, books were my escape place when I didn't have anybody else to go to. But then I started meeting friends who liked reading books, and then it's like now we're sparking off talking about conversations like to build and
Yeah.
move forward, you know. And I think it really matters about who you surround yourself with. A lot of my close friends, like it's not that I don't want them to be involved with my business, but I kind of have to separate that from them because I'm like, all right, this isn't something that they are actually very passionate about. So they're still my best friends. I love hanging out with them and everything. But when it's about the brand, I need to just, you know, put myself in a little space by myself and just, this is what I'm passionate about. Nobody's going to believe in it unless like you believe in it 100 and 1,000%. Like it has to be you. It has to be your belief, you know, like with these podcasts, for example, you know, like you believe like and you are making a great platform for businesses. You are talking about like great like points. And especially with me, like as a creator and like I'm on the lower totem pole of all this right now. Like I'm so excited to look back on this and like see where my mind is now compared to where it's going to be in a year.
Sure.
But it's like a everlasting growing thing. And I was very blessed that I never really got the ability to like be complacent. You know, I was never like in this one spot, like, oh, for example, like my friends had parents' businesses where it's like, all right, my dad's going to retire, so I have to take over his business, you know?
Yeah.
I never had something like that. It was always like, Zain, you could literally do whatever you want. Like you could, so I played lacrosse, I was in Science Olympiad, I was in Best Buddies helping like special needs kids. I was trying all these different things from an early age. And like, if I show you a resume of like all the jobs I've tried, you'd be like working at a gun club, lifeguard, server. It's like, I had the freedom. Like I had nobody telling me like, you have to be a doctor. You have to be this.
Sure.
And that freedom's like been the most powerful thing for me, like powerful tool.
So and so in that way, because of the way you were operating, just moving it, you turned it from a negative where people go like, oh, nobody gave me direction, to like, I could literally go do whatever I want. And so then you go try it and you do it. So like
as long as it doesn't kill me, or it might kill me, but I'm still gonna try it. Like nobody's telling me no, you know? So.
Yeah. Well, so so when you like sit down to start designing at this point, like designing stuff, it really comes down to like anything that you do that you jump into, but like how do you decide what you're going to do, what you're going to work on, like what direction you want to go? Like how do you figure that out? How do you think about it? What's that process like?
It's changed a lot, like as I'm growing and learning more about like branding and like, you know, like keeping an like symbols and iconic. Like for example, Nike is like one of my favorite brands, and I read the book The Shoe Dog. It's like one of my favorite books, but they started off as Blue Ribbon, and then they turned to Nike, and they found their icon, and they stayed authentic to that icon. So that's why even when they only had 1,000 people wearing Nike, there's like, they had such a strong belief, like just do it, like be the best. And then it grows, it multiplies if you stick to that brand. So I had so many in-game like designs, like all these crazy hoodies, like probably cost me like $300 to make and like cost someone $500 to buy. But my really good friend, James Nabatang, he's a designer. He's the one who gave me the phone calls, like, you need to just start making T-shirts and like start planning it. So he's been like very pivotal in the design process. Like now we're thinking of it like, what's a good winter drop? What's a good spring drop? What's a good fall? And I get that's like more generalized, but then we're also really like marginalizing like big events, you know? And especially like I'm playing with a lot of my friends right now. Like for example, my friend Nick Naracina and the Dream Squad, like we think of like, what are they doing like big this week? Or if they're going to do a big vlog, like we should get teas for them this time. And it's a lot of like just capturing what we can capture right now, because a lot of my publicity, we're not mass manufacturing or anything yet. I'm still learning so much about that. Like I'm scared to go online and like put in an order for 500 T-shirts because I don't know if they'll ever come or the quality or anything.
Sure.
So that's where like I'm really researching and learning, but starting small scale and just seeing if, you know, playing around with what people like. And like I said, like 2 days ago, I heard that someone thought my milk carton designs like supported child trafficking. So when I hear that like side, I obviously like, all right, my next design should be a little more sweet and like less like skull on the milk carton, where obviously I don't support any of that. Like I'm completely against it. But I realize when people look at the designs, first off, I'm really trying to like put it in our target market. I don't think this is really marketable for anybody under like 16, or because they're not really going to understand like the full message behind the brand, or maybe they might take it the wrong way. Oh, that's scary or something like that. But that's not my intentions, you know. Like I'm just trying to stick with the most authentic designs to me.
Well, and that's what a lot of this stuff comes down to. And I struggle with that stuff too, is when you go to make stuff, and especially when it comes from you, right? Like making a song. Like I'll kind of write songs and be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't say that, or maybe I shouldn't do that. But like at the end of the day, like
that's how you're feeling.
Well, and and it's like if you're gonna make something and it's true to you, then I think that's kind of important, especially if that's an important thing to you. Like there's certain things you do, well, I do now in business, that it's like, okay, that's not super important to me, that's like super creative or like perfectly elegant and lined up. Like sometimes when you're providing a service, people just need the service, and they need it like they need it 80% done, and I'm going to deliver it 90% perfect. But that other 10% that for my stuff, my artistic stuff, you want to spend like creating and making it perfect because it's you. Like other people don't really need that. So from a business perspective, I'm kind of learning to like let that perfection piece go.
Exactly.
It's hard to, but one thing, as you say that, maybe reconsider that even though people might take it the wrong way, like it's not a bad thing to
discuss and
Well, it's
bring
not a
up.
bad thing to do what you want to do, even if people are gonna misinterpret it and things like that. Because that's the uncomfortable part about art is like putting it out and seeing what people, the way they respond is like
Oh, yeah.
that's one of the challenges that you got to deal with as like a
And overcome.
designer, yeah, as a artist, any type of thing. Is like, what the hell are people gonna say? And then you got to deal with it, but you kind of have to like make it for you. So if you're like, oh man, they thought that, maybe I got to make the next one like sweet, something like that. That you could have the right feel,
Yeah.
like that could be the direction that you need to go. But also, like I'm starting to learn, and I wish I learned this sooner. Like take those criticisms that people have, maybe look at something and like take some value out of it, and then kind of like leave it there, and just kind of move ahead, put it aside, be like, got it, and then just keep going. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the type of guy I am, obviously that comment like was like, "Oh my god, I can't believe people."
That's a
think
pretty
that."
crazy thing for somebody to be like, "What do you
I
support
addressed
child
it, and I was like talking to him about it. I'm like, "Yo, like this is my brand," and he was like, he wanted to know more about it. So I told him what it was actually about, and he's like, "Oh, I love it and stuff." So like that showed me like some people you just have to have the conversation with, and some people you're not going to have the chance to have the conversation with. But if you truly believe in what you get, like they're going to see the progression, you know, and it's just going to grow. And I say like that's like kind of the hardest mental block is so many people just see it from their own views and like feelings. And that's not what the world really sees. Like you will psych yourself out. Like even with the vlogging and stuff, like I would go like do something like we were doing street interviews and a lot of these will come out. We're still like editing and stuff. I have like 8 full videos, pretty much road tripping, you know, just doing all this cool stuff with my childhood friends. But the entire time, I'm like, dude, like I feel like an idiot on camera. Like I feel awkward looking at the camera. I'm not an
like the
actor.
video that I put out today, where it's like,
Yeah.
like, you're a fucking idiot. Why are you making this video?
Exactly.
What are you doing?
And then I'm showing my best friends, and they're just dying laughing. They're like, "You're the funniest dude ever. Like this is awesome." Like, no, that's perfect. And like you never know what the reaction and like what emotions you're going to touch with someone. And that's all a part of it. You know, if you're an artist, if you're an influencer, if you're doing anything kind of in that world, you're going to have all these different types of reactions, but you can't let those reactions like change the authenticity of your actual message and what you actually want to do. Cause that's where I think people kind of get lost in it.
You fall off way easy. Like I get it with, and now I'm doing this with the business, and I also am now circling back to be able to do this with music, with this podcast. Like this is a personal podcast because like I enjoy doing this. Like I get to have conversations like this. Is like I like doing that. I like making music. I found out, like we talked about on one of these other episodes, Ty's like a friggin' musical genius savant. He knows all this stuff. So like being able to have this support that, but one of the things that I realized too, I even do it with business stuff, like putting things out, teaching people about podcasting, creating content, getting over yourself, where to start, interviewing customers, all these things. And like, I'll put things out, and when it doesn't get like a huge response, you're like, oh, what is the point of this, blah, blah, blah. And then the more that I think about it and realize that when you get in those situations, it is like that one-to-one conversation you had with this person. It's like, was this child trafficking? You're like, no, it's this. And they're like, that's cool. Like those are the actual conversations that I enjoy having now. And it's not a huge success. Like millions of people aren't watching me teach them how to podcast or do this stuff, but
people are taking valuable information.
They are. And it's given me like, I've been able to have, in the past week and a half that I've been doing this consistently on this like new plan, I've had at least one conversation a day with other professionals in my space that are struggling with some aspect of creating content. And now I get to like talk to them and share information on like a person to person. And then the content now I'm realizing is like kind of just a vehicle for me to be able to have that connection with somebody.
And that's so much more valuable. It's building on it. But
we focus on the analytics. We focus on these things, which are important because they let you know if it's resonating on a bigger scale and to like keep that going. But like you said, I forget about that one-to-one interaction like all the time. It's real easy to get lost. And I've gotten lost so many fucking times. It's like so stupid, but
you could kind of
it's how
like
it goes.
feel like, oh, that didn't really feel like myself when I was doing it and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I felt like about a lot of the videos I was filming and stuff, because a lot of it was like my friends were just trying to get me to like be like the entertainment part of it. And it's cool, like whatever. I had a great time. Like I think that is truly me. And like I think it's like going to be great for the future. But at the time, like you're your biggest critic. And that's what you need to realize is it's all building. And especially like in this space where it's like, yeah, maybe I'm a designer, but this heart-touching conversation I had with this DJ about like something, like it sparks an idea for my designs, you know? Like I've had so many designs that I came up with like right before bed, like I'm about to go to sleep, and I remember a conversation that I had with someone, and I'm like, I need to write this down, or like it sparks something. And in this space, everything's so connected, you know, music, the podcast, like what people wear, like branding, like it's so intertwined. And like as you build those little parts of it, you're going to believe in it more. You're going to feel like more successful. You're going to feel like more authentic and true to yourself. And that's where I think people get lost. Is like they expect the 0 to 100 so fast. But you got to go 0 to 1. And then while you're at 1, figure out the way to get it to 100. And it doesn't go 1 to 100. You're going to have to count up all the numbers, get all the pieces together. But yeah, I've been truly blessed. Like I'm a big like believer in like symbols, like symbolism, like especially I've been like got kind of turned Christian within the last like 6 months. So I like whatever, but butterflies are a big symbol for me, for example. Like
why?
It's one, it's just I feel like every time something good's happening to me, God puts the universe puts a butterfly like in front of my face. Like this one day I was serving at a serving job, I got a $300 tip. But like the entire table was going crazy. I was like poolside. I got them coffee. They didn't like their coffee. I get their food out. They leave to CVS to buy pool floaties. I'm like, their food's going to be cold. Like, I'm doing everything I can, but ship's sinking in my mind, right? They get back. They're like, this is the best service ever, because they knew I truly cared about their service. They tipped me $300, which I'm like, oh, my God, I've never been tipped that. And
hell
like,
yeah.
That's a crazy good tip.
Yeah.
But then, like, right after that, the biggest like monarch butterfly like right across my face, and that was like that meant as much as the $300. It was like a sign that I was really acting in the fashion that was true to myself, and you know, like
you're on the right path.
Sometimes like you're like, oh well, like you know, it's just like human nature. You're like, oh, they think it's corny, so I'm not gonna do it. But it's like, who cares what that one person thinks? Like if it's true to you and you're not hurting anybody, and like you're gonna have to like come to these crossroads where you're like, I just have to go for it and keep going for it and keep making content, keep doing this stuff, because that's the only way you're going to build to that 100 level. And like even then, like people work so hard, and still it's like some people are like, oh, they're not successful, they don't have 1 million subscribers. But it's like these people have had conversations with some of the smartest people in the world and like learned from it. It's like when I moved to Naples, like it really cut me off of like my friend group of my age. I started hanging out with people 30, 40. These people have their life like so much more figured out, I thought, when in reality they're very similar to me, but they do have so much more knowledge. I mean, for example, like Papa John Schneider, when I started hanging out with him, it's like the 60-year-old dude. I'm like, wow, this dude's like created an entire empire. Like that dude can give you 1,000 lessons in a minute, you know, and it's just like so much wisdom comes from him. But the same wisdom will come from, you know, someone who's been living in Naples as like a local, you know, like for 40 years. They'll teach me about like the landscape, and it's about just the same way in your field. Like when I moved to Naples, you're kind of a social butterfly. I got out my door. I would not let myself stay home for a day, and I'd go find like a new place, talk to people, learn about. I ended up being the Naples tour guide for like 3 months here, like literally telling people about the history of Naples.
That's cool.
And the beginning of it, I was picking up like new facts from the people I was taking on these tours. They're like, oh yeah, this is this. And like, I'm learning from people who I'm supposed to be teaching, but that's like,
that's how it goes.
Part of life. Like,
I think that's a good point, because I even think about that as I go to start doing these things. Like, you get new contracts, get new customers, and part of it is you worry like, oh, I don't know everything, right?
Mhm.
You're like, I got to know everything before I go on this tour. Do the Naples, I got to know everything, which it's good to know a lot. It's good to have your ducks in a row and not be like, well, welcome to this Naples tour. I don't really know anything about Naples, but let's ride around. Like, you don't want that, but part of it is like learning on the go. You don't know how these things are going to go until you're in it. You can do everything you can do to prepare, but you got to learn on the go. And I think if you don't anticipate that or set yourself up to be able to do that, I don't know. Every time I don't set myself up to be able to learn, I'm always just like worried, just like constant worry. I don't know what it is.
You
but
got to be open to it. And I feel like that's something so key that I've talked about so much and learned from so many people's like keeping that learner's mentality. Like even the greatest people ever, like they don't know everything. Like the top of like Gordon Ramsay, for example, like he probably doesn't want to listen to a lot of people. He probably thinks he knows a lot, but he doesn't know everything. And there's chefs out there that know more than him and know different stuff that can help him. So I bet that he does kind of have that learning mentality still, But when you close that off and you're like, this isn't what I know, or like this isn't how I feel about it or what I think's right, and you don't really give yourself a chance to look at the other side or learn, I mean, that's just closing your circle and your view. That's like, if you just stay open to like, oh, I'm going to learn, I'm going to go with this, like maybe it's not exactly authentic to you and your values, but I'm telling you, you're going to get so much out of the experience.
Yeah, well, and part of learning too is just kind of putting that ego aside and being willing to learn. It's something that I talked to my wife about this last week. I'm doing a social media course, and part of it is to like grow your following, and that way I can use it to promote my business, grow revenue, promote the other businesses that come on. Like, it's an important part of what I'm doing, and it's an important part of like the value I want to bring to other people. But I've been doing kind of the same thing over and over, thinking like, yeah, I know what I know. And we were in this session last week. Ty was actually on it too. And just like the feedback that I got from these guys who have 100,000 followers, and it's not from doing dances and stuff like that. Like they do this for businesses, they help people, so they have a strategy around it. And it was like, finally being willing to be like, all right, guys, I am following what you're telling me right now. I wrote all the notes down, all the things that I put out that I really wanted them to work, that you go like, yeah, I know you want it to, but it just doesn't, because it's not based in reality. Just follow what we're saying, have some faith in it, like try it out. And in the past week, I've seen a huge change, but I told my wife it was it was like a gut punch in the best way that I needed, because it was it was a relieving gut punch, like almost like, hey, like, bitch, you're being too serious. Like stop. Just fucking like, we're telling you what to do. You were wrong for all this time, yes, but go with what we're saying, follow it. And just in a week and a half, like, I feel so much better. I've learned so much. I'm willing to try so many more things with this. And like the pathways forward have opened up because I was willing to learn this stuff. And I don't know. I get stuck. Like, I don't know. Do you ever get that? You get like stuck in being like, oh, I know this. I know this.
Exactly. Yeah.
You finally meet people and you're like,
yeah, it's like fighting growing
shit,
pains.
actually.
Yeah. Like you got to learn and you got to like experience, and everybody kind of wants to like, I mean, even with the Orphan thing, I was like, yeah, I got to like cover like t-shirts. Like that's easy. I design all these in-game designs, like all these hoodie designs and all these designs I've done for years. I'm like, a t-shirt's going to be easy. Running problem printing it, finding someone to print it, like all these problems just occur, and I'm like, okay, I really know nothing about it, so I need to take a step back and learn every single like bit of it. Like I need to learn the manufacturing side, the designing. There's so much more behind anything. On my side, there's so much more behind designing than actually just drawing up a design. It's getting the clothes printed, getting it printed properly to the right people. Like it's just so much. And the same with podcasts, like, and with the way you're delivering, it's like you have a great structure, you have a great value, you're very authentic to what you want to do, and it comes from a great place. But like hearing that stuff from the other people, it's like it probably seems second nature to you. You're like, that's not how I go about my routine, you know? But you really pick and choose what works for you, and not everything's going to work for you. But I mean, I ran into so many influencers who kind of want to do who are already doing what I want to do, you know, like Vitaly, like Steve Will Do It, Bob Mirny, like all of these guys, like for kids my age, like kind of idolize them. And they're just very authentic to themselves at the end of the day, you know, and they grow and they have to drop, and they're under a lot more scrutiny than I am, you know, like they get their like YouTube channels taken down if they say the wrong things or stuff. So like that's where I'm like, it's okay if I make a mistake right now. Like I listen to
This
people.
is the time to make the mistakes.
Yeah, I listen to people all the time. I got these shirts printed. The guy, he came to me. He's like, I'm so excited to print out your shirts. Here's how we're going to do it. And then, you know, obviously they didn't get printed too well because the ink faded off like right away. But, you know, you will kind of get taken advantage a little bit sometimes if you're in that vulnerable state. But
absolutely,
it just builds so much knowledge. Like, it's not really a mistake if you learn a lesson from it. Like a lot of people say that, but
it's true, man. It's all these things come down to it, and it's like, yeah, make sure the lessons aren't like literally going to kill you or bankrupt you or something like that. But yeah, it sucks in the moment. But at the end of the day, the next time that you go to like print from somebody,
so much more knowledge.
Yeah, you're going to be asking a bunch more
Yeah.
questions, asking certain things. Where's the distribution coming from? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, well, and so how does this lead into the videos you guys are making? Like what kind of?
So the videos is like kind of my dream of being like an influence, you know, again, my reach out. And I think that, you know, it can, at some point I could do that entertainment stuff and be very helpful. Cause like I took a break on the videos kind of, cause I saw myself, not being fully authentic to myself. You know, a lot of it was like, you know, you saw my content, like kind of crazy drinking, you know, having a good time, whatever. But I want to really find a niche of like, I'm giving back at the same time and I'm helping people, and something where like, I'm kind of scared, you know, because like my nephew's 8 years old watching YouTube and stuff. And like some of these people, I'm like, don't watch this stuff like this. Like, and I don't want to be like one of those people where it's like
somebody else tells him like, hey, there's this guy Zain, you shouldn't watch him.
Yeah, or like he's being bad for like a bad like
no
image.
reason.
And I get like all those people, you're always gonna have people who are gonna be on either side.
Sure.
But if, like I said, if you're authentic and you truly think that you're helping people out, you're giving back, you're staying good to your morals, I think that a lot of good stuff could come. So that's why I kind of paused that and I started Orphan, because I felt like I can make a bigger impact. You know, my friends are loving the clothes. They're so hyped. I'm just like growing that. Like my friends are really behind it. I have like people who are like messaging me on Instagram like, hey, I grew up in an orphanage. Like I would love to like get some of your merch, and like I'm planning like, you know, thoughtful things for them to ship it out, like add little cards. Like I want it to be meaningful to people. And like if you could change like one person's day or something, like help them, like that's a great start, you know. And then hopefully with the videos, when we tie that in, you know, because it's kind of like, you know, my generation, but people are like infatuated with like Barstool and Nelk Boys. So like if they see a member from each one of those, and then I'm kind of like just they're my childhood best friends. We had a business right outside of high school actually called Audacia, where all we did was like film famous and influential people and like take notes on how they got there. And, you know, I like it better how I am now. Like sometimes I just run into them and I get like a more friendly like conversation with them, and I feel like they don't really have their guard up as much. So
you're not as much you were essentially paparazzi.
Yeah, exactly.
Before, yeah.
But like I met like so many people, like Tom Ricketts, the owner of the Cubs. Sean Neff was like one of my favorite like stories. He started that entire Orphanwear with like 60-cent beanies, because like he went to Utah. There's a huge Olympic snowboarding competition. They were all sponsored by Quicksilver at the time because it was huge, but they didn't have beanies that were sponsored by anybody. So Neff went to Walmart, Sharpie Neff on 2 beanies. The first place winner and the third place winner had the Neff hats on. The brand took off after that. Everybody wanted Neff. And I get that's like a little more different now, but I know so many people who started brands, stopped it. Like they're like, but I feel like this is actually like an in-game goal for me. I want to keep this brand alive. I want to keep making designs, be a designer. I have a lot of stuff like I'm planning for the future, but I do want to keep it like philanthropy and like a good like image behind all of it at the same time. And I just think I could build like into so much more. So it's just right now it's really baby steps, just feeling it out. But like I said, like a lot of the feedback I got from like these influential people or even just like my close friends or even strangers, like it's all kind of building my opinions on what I can do with this and what I can turn it into. So
nice. Awesome, dude. Well, as we're kind of like wrapping up, I definitely want to let people know where they can find you. But like, what is there anything else that you want to touch on before we wrap up?
Well, I want to thank you once again for bringing me on the show.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Southwest Florida podcast. This is awesome. It's great for businesses and creators. And I kind of wanted to touch a little bit more on like how amazing like Naples and the community here is, and
sure,
just like, you know, so many people have been helping me out in like so many different ways. And that's just like those acts of kindness are what really, you don't know how much that's actually going to change someone, you know? Like
makes a huge impact.
For example, yesterday I'm at Winn-Dixie and the lady in front of me, she runs her card, whatever, it's like $2 something short. So I gave her $2 to finish it. But like people don't know I got that habit because people have done that to me and helped me out. Or like most people would be like, oh, it's $2. I'm going to wait for her to like go through her purse, find the change, whatever. But you could just be nice and do it for $2. But you don't know, like that's just like secondhand for me. Like that's not something I would consider too nice or like giving. Like it's like not like Steve will do it. He's giving away like millions of dollars to people. But you never know like the butterfly effect. Like now she's in a better mood. She might be more giving. And that's how I was created, you know, kind of with everything. That's what the brand's about, is like giving back and just helping each other. And that's Naples too, you know, like I ran into you, we became friends. I've been trying to support your content as much as I can. You've
appreciate
been a huge supporter of me, and it's like I'm just real excited because I feel like I'm going to be back here for another podcast, definitely at some point, and I'm excited to see where I'm at and how I'm thinking then compared to now, you know?
Yeah, it's a cool timestamp, right? So look back. Yeah, and that's just important, man. Like I look back at the first episode that we did of this it's CHEINE On. So like CHEINE On is like CHEINE, Chris Hine, CHEINE On.
Yeah.
And so the very first episode of this was me and my buddy in my dining room. And we were just like, I had one of those moments. It was like one of those moments in life where you're like, do I do this or do I not do it? Like you're talking and I was like just like stopped and froze up and clammed up. And then like the very first clip of it is like, we don't know what the hell we're talking about. Fuck it, we're gonna do it anyway. And just like,
and the progression from there, like now you're so professional, it seems so like natural, but nobody would like, unless they really have been following you from there, they'd be like, man, this dude's just like gifted. This dude can just talk. This dude's just like confident.
Yeah.
But they never really know the build up like to that. And like,
and it's not for them to know. That's the other part that like I have to remember, that you got to remember as you build this, is like they're living their own life, and the things that we think of like, oh, everybody's going to care about this. Like a lot of people care way less about these things than we think. But it is, going back to your point, like rather than focusing on that stuff, like you focus on doing nice stuff, like for people in your day-to-day life, it makes your life better. Like in the like
so many blessings.
And even just think of it like from a selfish perspective, right? Like that lady in front of you has $2 short, and like you could be one of those people that's like, she's got to learn her lesson. Or you can be like, here's $2, and guess what happens? She checks out right there immediately. She's done.
Saves me time.
You move forward and you're done. Like she's happier, you're happier, everybody in the line behind you's happier. It's like a really basic thing that it's nice for them, and it just makes things run smoother.
Exactly.
You
Like,
know?
I have a lot of very close friends that are very pessimistic, and I would have to say, like, you honestly have to try hard to be pessimistic, in my opinion. Like, the people are like, oh, this sucks, like, all this, like, you're just, like, really putting yourself behind, and it's hard to get anything done when you think
Yeah.
this just sucks, you know, where if you're like, maybe I don't enjoy this, but I'm going to try to learn the best I can, and, like, if you really think about how it's building into your life and stuff, and you just try to be nice and go about your own life, blessings will come all the time. Like, it's easier being nice. It makes the world an easier place. You get friendlier reactions, more support.
Well, and the stuff that literally what you just said is something that I've been working on the past like 2 months now, roughly, is the way that you talk to yourself that like imprints on like your subconscious mind, and then that impacts how you behave out in the world. I've always been nice to people, like do nice things like that, but also just more for my own self, like moving forward. Could be more pessimistic of like, will this be successful? Will you run out of money? Will people be pissed off at this? And it's like changing those thoughts and focusing more. I don't even view it as optimistic or pessimistic. It's like, hey, I want to do that, and I think I can do it, and I think it's possible. And I keep reinforcing that idea, so that way, like, you act that out in the world versus, like, your friends who might be more pessimistic. They're like, this fucking sucks, dude.
Yeah.
He's a bitch. Like, and you're like, well, no, they're just like, she's busy. She's, like, moving along. It's like, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Like, everything's fine. I think it makes your life better when you don't start from that pessimistic.
Yeah, and put that out in the universe. And
Yeah.
I think I really like how you said the way you talk to yourself, because I think it starts there. Like, I know a lot of my friends were like, other people, like, if they go out, they'll put on like a very confident, but then they get back to themselves and they're, you know, very, not like very sure of
Insecure.
themselves, insecure. And those doubts are always going to be there for you. And like, but you just got to kind of let them fuel you, like, and let those doubts will start to go away as you just keep chasing it, you know, like, and as long as you just keep chasing it, and like, anything's possible. I truly believe that. I mean, most of the stuff we see here is made by people before us, and only better stuff's being made, you know, and you'll only learn more. And as long as you don't give up, like, you're going to go places. And I, like, even with my first drop, I'm like, okay, the print's like falling off. Like, I don't really know. But, you know, I still had friends like, oh, just whatever. Like, let me get it. I want to support you. And then the second drop came out, and I was like, wow, this is so much better. And it just felt like the improvement. And, like, I also wanted to thank everybody who's, like, supporting, like, Orphan, anybody who bought it or, like, asked about it. Like, those people have a, like, permanent place in my heart. Like, people really don't understand, like, you know, like, a lot of my friends, like, deal with these celebrities and stuff. And it's funny because they're like, you kind of have, like, a fan energy because I'm always, like, so happy. I'm like, yeah, but it's like, and a lot of people, like, mistake it as, like, fake happiness or me coming off corny or, like, but it's genuine happiness. And, like, that will, like, play off to people. Like, you don't know how much a message, like, will make someone's day or, like, something. Like, some people think it's corny, whatever. Like, those aren't the people I really want to be friends with, you know?
Yeah,
like,
it's not who you're trying to connect with.
And you will build that, and, like, life is just, like, you shed many layers, you know? Like, where I was 3 years ago mentally, and, like, I'm just in college, I'm going to party every weekend, like, all this, to, like, now it's like, I don't really want to go to parties. I want to get my clothes out and help people and, like,
The shift
try to
is
find
happening.
something else. And I'm starting off small, like, okay, 3 Christmas gifts for kids for Christmas. It's not a lot, but
Something.
if I keep building on that, I'm going to look back on it and say, this is where I started. Here's where I am now. And that builds confidence in me. And that's like, okay, keep going. And I feel like people are always on, like, this timeline. Like, I need to get this finished now. Like, they're looking at me. They want me to finish this now. But it's like, in reality, like, you really need to work with your own timeline, because it's not just straight start, finish. It's start, you know, all these curves. I'm learning something new. Oh, I'm going to vlog. No, it's about time for me to start my brand. Like, all this, it will just feel right to you. And that's where I talk about, like, symbols and, like, I've been blessed. I started from a foster home, and now, I'm friends with like John Schneider, CEO of Papa John's, Salim the Dream, all these famous people. And it's like, what do they see in me is like, I have a goal, I have an idea, and I just want to pursue it. That makes me the same as someone with $1 million with a goal and a dream. Like, we're the same. We're just two guys trying to pursue this goal and dream. And like, it's weird. Like, sometimes you'll be chasing your dream. Like, I was making a lot more money when I wasn't chasing my dream. I was working in the claw bar. I was a pool server. I was fine, but it was like I had to give some of that comfort up. And like, these rewards, like people saying, "Oh, that's a nice shirt. Like, you're doing good with the brand." That means more to me right now than money would. And I feel like it comes naturally. Like, I mean, you can learn a lot from people who have already made it. Like, most of these people, some of them started with stuff, but they, all of them go through these stages like, "Oh, I'm very comfortable, but I'm not doing enough about my dreams." Like, I am making enough money, I'm living comfortably, but, like, I'm spending my money to go to clubs and stuff when I'm not really spending my money to build my dreams. And that's where a lot of people, like, hit this, like middle road. And, like, sometimes it takes, like, all right, I need to do this. Like, a lot of stuff that gotten me into this position, it wasn't like, I'm comfortable in doing this, I want to do this. It's like, this is the only choice. I need to do this.
Yeah.
So, and it's led me to here. And now, I have a little more choices and flexibility, but I'm kind of pinpoint on the brand. I want to start this clothing brand. I want to help, kids who need help. And I'm 23 years old, but maybe by the time I'm 40, 50, who knows how much of a change I could do with that.
But
So,
if you're working it now, it's going to, by that time, if you keep at it and you keep working it, and the plan will shift, and nothing's going to go perfectly according to plan, but if you keep working it, it's amazing, like, how far you can go in a lot less time than that. But so all right, so where can people find you on social media? Like, where can they follow you and get involved in
I'm
everything?
big on Instagram. That's the main platform I use right now. It's Zain Bajwa is my Instagram. The brand wear right now is called Welcome Orphans. Is our brand page on Instagram. It was Orphanwear before, but when I brought my friend James in with me, he runs a lot of that page too. So if you message that page, it's either going to be me or him. And me and him work on the designs together. If he makes a design, I'll go over it and like put in my piece, like 2 cents. Like, for that, he designed that necklace design, but it was originally like a normal silver chain. But I was like, well, why don't we do like more of a twig branchy type? So it's really makes it powerful. Like, when you have two brains like on it.
Yeah.
And that's another thing is like, a lot of people want to keep the secret just to themselves, where I'm telling you, if you have another brain behind you, if you just let someone else in, like, you could really just the collaborations, and it becomes something so much bigger. But yeah, right now we're just on Instagram. I'm planning on making a YouTube channel soon. Really talented filmer down here, filmed by Zims.
Yeah, I've seen his stuff. I've talked to him on Instagram. He makes really cool stuff.
Great films. He owes me a video because I dog watched for him. So that's going to be my first.
You hear that? You owe him.
He owes me.
Let's make something cool.
So that's going to probably be my first YouTube video, which I'm going to use as like an introduction, which is why I'm so happy that like this podcast is coming on around the same time, because it's very similar feel. Then I have a bunch of stocked up footage from, my road trip. I went from California to Chicago to Miami, drove in a Mustang. So we filmed all of that, a few other events. We went to like a Renaissance fair, a cannabis con, Miami Swim Week. It's just a lot of stuff that I think will always be relevant.
Hell yeah, that's cool.
I want to throw that up on there. We're also trying to expand on TikTok, but I'm not the biggest TikTok guy. I see, like, it's such a great platform, though.
I know. I'm in the same boat. I haven't gotten into it yet, and I feel like I need to.
Yeah,
but
I mean, one video, like, it's weird because, like, you kind of get shadow banned, but I know some people that just run TikTok algorithms, they're getting paid 6 figures a year right now managing other people's accounts because they know when to post, what to post, and it'll run up 1 million views on TikTok and stuff, easily.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man.
I mean, I even have a friend who does thumbnails
as like a service.
He makes like 300 grand a year doing thumbnails.
Damn.
So it really shows you, like, if you find a niche and you find like something that you're like,
you can make it work.
Yeah. And it's all about networking, and you don't really know how valuable something is until like you put into play, and you're gonna like my 2 designs that are one's falling apart, one's a misprint, but it teaches you a lot. And when you throw it out there, all you're gonna get is feedback. And
for sure. You got to put the feedback. You got to put it out there to get that feedback, and it's not always what you want to hear, but
yeah. And I have I got to go pick up shirts after this, so I have two shirts coming your way too, for sure.
Hell yeah. Well, thanks, dude. Well, thanks for
course.
coming and doing this, man. I really appreciate it. It was great to actually sit down and talk with you for this time, but yeah, thanks, dude.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for having me.